Chapter 20, Poverty, Inequality, and Social Sector Development. Poverty refers to a situation of scarcity of money and lack of means to earn livelihood. Poverty has decreased in last one decade. However, economic and social inequality is still persisting in the nation. Poverty. Poverty may be defined as the inability to secure minimum human needs related to food, clothing, housing, education, and health. So, poverty basically means a situation when people fail to reach a certain minimum level of subsistence. If these minimum needs are not fulfilled, man undergoes pain and suffering. There is loss of health and efficiency. Poverty is a challenge not only for India, as more than one fifth of the world's poor live in India alone, but also for the world, where about 300 million people are not able to meet their basic needs. According to the World Bank, poverty is pronounced deprivation of well being and is a multidimensional problem. It includes low income and inability to acquire basic goods and services necessary for survival with dignity. Concept of poverty. Poverty is a phenomenon which is objective and subjective in nature. Objective form of poverty can be witnessed in the form of absolute poverty, while subjective can be understood as relative poverty. Absolute poverty. It is a situation in which the consumption or income level of people is less than some minimum level which is necessary to meet basic needs. As per the national standards, it is expressed in terms of a poverty line. Absolute poverty has been defined in the context of per capita intake of calories and minimum level of per capita consumption expenditure. Relative poverty. Relative poverty refers to poverty on the basis of comparison of per capita income of different countries. The country whose per capita income is quite less in comparison to other countries is treated as a relatively poor nation. Lorentz curve and Gini coefficient are used to assess this form of poverty. Categorization of poor on the basis of level of poverty. People who face poverty are referred to as poor. On the basis of level of poverty, we can categorize poor people as chronic poor, transit poor, and non poor. These are as follows: chronic poor, always poor. People who do not usually have sufficient money to fulfill their basic needs are always poor and remain below poverty line. Usually poor. People who sometimes have little more money but usually are unable to fulfill their basic needs are considered usually poor. Example, casual workers and landless workers. Transit poor, earning poor. They regularly move in and out of poverty. Example, small farmers, seasonal workers, etc. Occasionally poor. They are rich most of the time but may sometimes have a patch of bad luck. Example, people who gamble. Non poor, never poor. They are those people who live above the poverty line. They are non poor, example, doctors, lawyers, professionals, etc. In this respect, poverty line refer to the cutoff point that divides people as poor and non poor. Poverty line. The concept of absolute poverty assumes that there is some fixed minimum level of consumption that constitutes poverty. Such a minimum level of consumption, also referred to as the subsistence level, is generally defined with reference to a diet that is just sufficient to maintain health, clothing, and limited housing. The cost of this minimum consumption level defines the poverty line. Defined methods of determining poverty line. Following are the methods of determining poverty line. Jail cost of living method. In pre-independent India, Dadabhai Naoroji was the first person to discuss the concept of poverty line. He used the menu for a prisoner and used appropriate prevailing prices to compute jail cost of living. For computing jail cost of living, he assumed that two-thirds of the population was adult and remaining one-third of population consisted of children, out of which half of them consumed very little, while the other half consumed half of the adult died. Therefore, the average poverty line came out to be three-fourths of the adult jail cost of living. Task force on projection of minimum needs and effective consumption demand. After independence, many attempts were made to define an appropriate poverty line. One such attempt was the formation of task force on projection of minimum needs and effective consumption demand in 1979. It determine poverty line on the basis of minimum daily intake of calories. A person consuming 2400 calories per day in rural areas and 2100 calories per day in urban areas was deemed to be able to achieve the subsistence level. Those who were not able to consume the specified calories were said to be poor. As per task force, the consumption of calories for rural areas was 2435 calories and for urban areas it was 20 to 2045 calories. These have been rounded off to 2400 calories and 2100 calories respectively. Monthly per capita expenditure MPCE. This method expresses the money required to consume minimum calorie intake as given by the task force. The table below shows the monthly per capita expenditure for defined years as given by the Tendulkar Committee. Monthly per capita expenditure 2004 to 5, 2009 to 10, and 2011 to 12. In rural, for 446.68, 673 or 816. Urban 578.8, 860 or 1000. In 2014, the Rangarajan Committee presented i- its report and raised the MPCE levels to 972 for rural areas and 1407 for urban areas at 2011 to 12 prices. This increased the number of people below poverty line by 100 million. The government of India uses this method to define poverty line. New concept of determination of poverty line. The new updated data released by the commission based on the price indices computed from the 66th round NSS 2009 to 10 data on household consumer expenditure survey say anyone who has 28 to spend daily is out of poverty. It has estimated the poverty lines at all India level as MPCE monthly per capita consumption expenditure of 673 for rural areas and 860 for urban areas in 2009 to 10. Based on these cutoffs, the percentage of people living below the poverty line in the country has declined from 37.2% in 2004 to 5 to 21.92% in 2011 to 12. Two methods of poverty line estimation on the basis of consumption are Uniform Recall Period URP 1993 to 94. Here, consumption data is asked for a 30 days recall period for all items. Mixed recall period MRP 1999 2000. Here, consumption expenditure is asked for five frequently used items clothing, footwear, durable goods, education, and institutional medical expenses for a 365 days recall period, and other items are asked for a 30 days recall period. Measures of poverty. The extent of poverty is depicted by the following measures. Head count ratio or poverty ratio. It is calculated by dividing the number of people below poverty line by the total population. It measures the proportion of poor in the total population. Poverty gap index PGI. It is the difference between the poverty line and the average income of all households living below poverty line. BPL expressed as a percentage of poverty line. It indicates the depth and severity of poverty. PGI equal to poverty line minus average income of BPL by poverty line. Squared poverty gap index. It is the mean of the squared individual poverty gaps relative to the poverty line. It indicates the severity of poverty as well as the inequality among the poor. Sen index of poverty. It was developed by Professor Amartya Sen. It is based on the head count ratio, poverty gap index, and the Gini coefficient. It takes into account the extent and severity of poverty as well as inequality. It is expressed as H equal to H I plus 1 minus I G, where H equal to Sen index of poverty, H equal to head count index, I equal to poverty gap index, and G equal to Gini coefficient. Human poverty index HPI. UNDP set HPI as parameter to measure poverty in its human development reports. The measure assess the nature and intensity of poverty at the individual level in education, health outcomes, and standard of living. Multidimensional Poverty Index (MPI). It was developed in 2010 by Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative and the United Nations Development Programme. It uses defined factors to determine poverty beyond income-based list. It uses a range of deprivation that afflict and individual's life. This measure assesses the nature and intensity of poverty at the individual level in education, health outcomes, and standard of living. The MPI indicates the share of population that is multidimensionally poor. It measures the intensity of deprivation in terms of living standards, health, and education literacy constitutes a major cause of poverty. MPI is calculated as follows: MPI equal to H into A, where H equal to percentage of people who are multidimensionally poor, equal to average intensity of multidimensional poverty across the poor percentage. From 2010 Human Development Report HDR measures poverty in terms of multidimensional poverty index MPI, replacing human poverty index HPI being used since 1997. vicious cycle of poverty. It connects poverty as a human condition that one place are poor for various reasons. They cannot easily escape from poverty. In fact, they must struggle constantly merely to stay where they are and not become poorer. This is known as the vicious cycle of poverty. The people in the less developed countries have low per capita income. Having low income, their rate of savings is also low. When savings are small in a country, investment will also be low. Low investment leads to low productivity. With low productivity level, the income is bound to be low. Peoples as such remain poor. In this way, vicious cycle of poverty completes. Summing up, we can say that less developed countries are poor because they do not have sufficient capital resources for investment. Capital has a central position for economic development. Poverty, low production, low income, low demand, lack of capital, low investment, low production. Poverty in India. The regional data of poverty shows that as many as 8 states have the incidence of poverty higher than national average. Among these are Arunachal Pradesh 34.7%, Assam 32%, Bihar 33.7%, Jharkhand 37%, Madhya Pradesh 31.7%, Chhattisgarh 40%, and Odisha 32.6%. Such an high incidence of poverty is the clear manifestation of maldistribution of resources and assets. This creates a gap in the society with only few people accumulating the major amount of assets. Except expert groups for estimating poverty in India. The level of poverty is estimated on the basis of household consumption expenditure data collected by National Sample Survey Organization and is expressed in terms of headcount ratio. Some important committees for estimation of poverty and their recommendations are as follows. Lakadwala Committee. It was constituted in 1989 by the Planning Commission to consider methodological and computational aspects of estimation of proportion and number of poor in India. The report of this committee was submitted in July 1993. It suggested that the consumption expenditure should be calculated based on caloric consumption as earlier. It also suggested that state specific poverty lines should be constructed and these should be updated using CPI industrial workers in urban areas and CPI agricultural labor in rural areas. Tendulkar Committee Report. Tendulkar Committee, headed by Prime Minister's Economic Advisor Mr. Suresh Tendulkar, was set up in March 2009 to look into the methodology of estimating poverty in India. Tendulkar Committee submitted its report in December 2009 to the Planning Commission. In its finding, this committee has moved away from just calorie creation definition to a broader definition of poverty that also includes expenditure on health, education, clothing in addition to food. The following changes were recommended: a departure from calorie consumption based poverty estimation, a union poverty line basket PLV across urban and rural areas, a change in price adjustment procedure to take into account the impact of inflation, incorporation of private expenditure on health and education while calculating poverty. Using this approach, new poverty line for the year 2004 to 5 has been raised from 356 per capita per month of 447 per capita per month in rural areas and from 539 per capita per month to 579 per capita per month in urban areas. In daily terms, poverty line has been raised from 12 to 15 per capita per day in rural areas and from 18 per capita per day to 19 per capita per day in urban areas. As per Tendulkar Committee report, 37.2% of Indian population is living below poverty line using uniform recall period consumption in the year 2004 to 5 against the official estimate of 27.5%. According to this report, 41.8% population in rural areas and 25.7% population in urban areas is living below poverty line. NC Saxena Committee for BPL families in rural areas to review the methodology for conducting BPL census in rural areas. An expert group headed by Dr. NC Saxena was constituted by the Ministry of Rural Development to recommend a suitable methodology for identification of BPL families in rural areas. The expert group submitted its report in August 2009 and recommended doing away with score-based ranking of rural households followed for the BPL census 2002. The committee has recommended automatic exclusion of some privileged sections and automatic inclusion of certain deprived and vulnerable sections of society and a survey for the remaining population to rank them on a scale of 10. Based on the above methodology, the committee estimated the population below the poverty line at 50% of the total population. S.R. Harsim Committee for BPL families in urban areas. The Planning Commission had constituted the expert group to recommend the detailed methodology for the identification of families living below poverty line in the urban areas on 13 May 2010. The panel has suggested that the government should use three-stage approach: automatic exclusion, automatic inclusion, and scoring index to identify urban poor. Under the automatic inclusion step, homeless families facing social and occupation deprivation should be included in the BPL list. As per the report, a family will be defined as poor if any of its member, including children, is a beggar or rag picker, domestic worker, and sweeper of sanitation worker or mali. The family would also be poor if all its earning adult members are either daily wages or workers with irregular wages. In the final stage, the remaining households should be assigned scores from 0 to 12 based on various indicators of residential, social, and occupational vulnerabilities. Those households with scores from 1 to 12 should be considered eligible for inclusion in the BPL list in the increasing order of the intensity of their deprivations, meaning thereby that those with higher scores more deprived. Rangarajan Committee on Poverty Planning Commission constituted an expert group headed by C. Rangarajan to review the Tendulkar Committee methodology for estimating poverty in May May 2012. Perspective of people about poverty has changed. Therefore, Commission needs to take a fresh look into the methodology for estimation of poverty in the country. The committee submitted its report on 6 July 2014 to the Planning Commission. The report observed that the population living below poverty line has decreased from 38.2% in 2009 to 10 to 29.5% in 2011 to 12. The Rangarajan report also revised the poverty line by increasing it to 972 per month or 32 per day as against the 816 per month suggested by the Tendulkar Committee. For the urban areas, the Rangarajan Committee revised the poverty line to 1407 per month, 47 per day as against 1000 per month of the Tendulkar Committee. अलग कमिटी হচ্ছে গিয়ে in 1979 a task force constituted by the planning commission for the purpose of poverty estimation chaired by YK Alak constructed a poverty line for rural and urban areas on the basis of nutritional requirements. In the table below shows the nutritional requirements and rated consumption expenditure based on 1973 to 74 price levels recommended by the task force. Poverty estimates for subsequent years were to be calculated by adjusting the price level of for information inflation area calories day, minimum consumption expenditure per capita per month, rural হচ্ছে 2449.1, urban 2100 or 56.7. UN report on Indian poverty. In the Millennium Development Report 2010, it has been mentioned that the poverty rate in India was 51% in 1990. However, it is expected to fall to a level of 2400 by 24% by 2015. According to the UNDP, the eight poorest Indian states, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, and West Bengal have more number of poor than the 26 poorest African nations. Measurement of poverty by UNDP. As per UNDP, poverty is a multidimensional problem. Apart from income, it also includes factors like health and nutrition. World Bank has established two parameters to measure poverty at the international level. Those earning less than 1.25 US dollar per day. Such persons are referred as suffering from extreme poverty. Those spending less than 2 US dollar per day, these sections are referred to as poor. Besides these parameters, Lorentz curve and Gini coefficient are also used to observe poverty in a state. The Asian Development Bank (ADB) has set the parameters of US dollar 1.35, while Indian government has set this parameter at 1.02 US dollar. World Bank report. World Bank on 18th April 2013 in its report entitled Where are the Poor and Most Poor observed that one third of the global poor in India, the poor in the India will live on less than 1.25 US dollar a day. There are around 120 crore extremely poor persons in the world today. Between 1981 to 2010, the developing countries have witnessed a decline in poverty rate from 50% to 21%. Despite development in Africa, poverty is still widespread. Inequality often refers to income gap between the rich and the poor in a society. The greater the gap, the greater the inequality. It essentially refers to disparities in the distribution of economic assets and income among the individuals and groups within a nation and nation and nations. It may result from the operation of the economic system, access to assets, education and skills, social factors like caste and gender, etc. Adverse impacts of inequality. Growing inequalities can affect the rate of growth adversely and weaken social cohesion. Urban dominated growth in India has caused social friction as a result of high levels of migration to cities and a shortage of foreign investment in more isolated areas. In societies where wealth is concentrated in the hands of a few, there is danger that the rich will control the government for their own benefit and weaken the institutional foundations of the growth process. Types of inequality. Economic inequality. It is unequal distribution of income and opportunity between defined groups. It is the defined in wealth, income, assets that are distributed among individual or and population. The top earners are earning more and more, while average earners are seeing their wages stagnating or rising at a lower rate. Class inequality. Class is a word which is usually used to ascribe social statuses. The class differences can be regarded as one of the principal cause for underdevelopment in rural India, especially with reference to women. Women in rural as well as urban areas form a greater percentage of poor people than men. The main cause for this is that women have less access to education and paid jobs. Many women are employed in poorly paid jobs such as domestic and farm labors. Social inequality. It is the existence of unequal opportunities and rewards for defined social positions within a group or a society. It has the effect of limiting or harming a group's or individual's social status, social class, etc. Areas of social inequality include access to education, healthcare, the extent of property rights, age, quality housing. etc. Social inequality is linked to racial inequality, gender inequality, and wealth inequality. Educational inequality. Education inequality refers to the unequal distribution of academic resources. Education is helpful in developing the society and country. Without education, a person or society cannot grow. Inequality in education is a big problem or challenge for the India and every developing country. Inequality in education means a system in which all the classes of society are not given equal opportunity to get education. Children of a poor family cannot get education from private schools due to high fees. Methods of teaching and environment of the private schools are government schools totally differ from each other. It is an example of educational inequality in our society. Regional inequalities. Regional inequality shows the differences between lifestyles of different persons at different areas, infrastructure and development of different areas, etc. Basically, it shows inequality between rural and urban areas, infrastructure and development. It is also the reason of economic inequality in the societies. Urban areas are more developed in comparison to rural areas also. Some areas of rural or urban are more developed than the other. Persons of less developed areas or rural areas do not have access to availability of resources, employment, knowledge and infrastructure. Income inequality. Income inequality refers to the unequal development of income of the defined class of individuals who have same qualification, work experience and capacity. Persons who have already more income and wealth, they grow at a fast rate and have more opportunity to generate multiple of income from their earned income. But those persons who earn less and don't have any financial background, they face it defined to generate any extra income or opportunity. Aspects of inequality. Betaili 1969 suggests that two aspects of social inequality deserve mention. The first is distributive aspects, which refer to the defined factors income, wealth, occupation, education, power, skill that are distributed in the population. The second is the relational aspect, which refers to the way in which an individual is differentiated by the different factors relative to each other within a system of groups and categories. Regions of inequality. Economic inequality or unequal distribution of income and wealth is the main problem of India, and the reasons are as follows. People who already hold more wealth have the resources to invest or to leverage the accumulation of wealth, which creates new wealth. Wages are determined by labor market. Some people are paid millions while some merely earn minimum wage. Education affects wages. Individual with high level of education often earn higher wages. Everyone does not have the ability to earn capacity to take higher and quality education. Differences in education in terms of levels and quality still play a prominent role in the economic inequality. Growth in technology widens income gap. More uses of technologies machinery reduces employment job. In many countries there is a gender income gap in the labor market. Measurement of inequality of income and wealth. Gini coefficient and Lorentz curve. The Gini coefficient, also known as the Gini index or Gini ratio, is a measure of statistical dispersion developed by the Italian statistician and sociologist Cardio Gini. It measures the inequality among values of a frequency distribution. Example, levels of income. Gini coefficient is commonly used as a measure of inequality of income or wealth. A Gini coefficient or a zero express perfect equality where all values are the same. Example, where everyone has an exactly equal income. A Gini coefficient of 100 on the percentile scale expresses maximal inequality among values where only one person has all the income. The Gini coefficient is usually defined mathematically based on the Lorentz curve, which plots the proportion of the total income of the population y-axis cumulatively earned by the bottom x portion of the population. See diagram. The line at 45 degree with x-axis thus represents perfect equality of incomes. Lorentz curve of income distribution. 0 10 AV 10 20 30 40 50 60 70 80 90 100 cumulative population share percentage or cumulative income share percentage. 10 20 30 40 50 60 70 80 90 100. Inequality in India. The Gini coefficient of wealth in India or in 2017 was at 0.83, which puts India among the countries with highest inequality country. Gini coefficient increased from 0.27 to 0.28 in rural areas and from 0.35 to 0.39 in urban areas between 2004 to 5 and 2009 to 10. Top 10% wage earners make 12 times more than the bottom 10% compared to 6 times 20 years ago. According to World Inequality Report 2018, India is the second most unequal region in wealth distribution in the world. In 2017, 73% of wealth generated went to the richest 1% increase in their wealth. Trickle down theory states that as business flourishes, profits too finally trickle down to low income groups of individuals. The trickle down effect has not been very effective in India, even though 271 million people moved out of poverty between 2005 to 6, 2015 to 16. Social sector development. Social sector development mainly focuses on the people of the society by putting them at the center of development. This is a process which improves the capacity of the society by making qualitative changes in the structure of the society. It is a method by which people can be assisted to develop themselves on their own capacity with the better use of available resources. Social sector development is process of positive change and improving the living standards of people in the society with a clear objective in mind through defined policies and programs. Social development as a process changes the psychology of the people as a method. It focuses on goals to be fulfilled. It emphasizes in a specific matter such as health, education, drinking water supply, agriculture, and gender, etc. When we view social development as a policy, below is a unified approach provided by United Nations for social development. No sections of population should be left outside the scope of development. Social development should effect structural changes and all sections of population should participate in the development process. There should be equitable distribution of wealth. High priority should be given to the development of human potential, including vocational and technical uh, training, provisions of employment opportunities, and meeting the needs of deprived sections of society. Components of social development. The extent and level of social development are manifested through its components. Important among them are as follows: health sector, education sector, gender equality. Health sector. Health is an important component of social infrastructure and development. It is the holistic concept implying the physical, mental, and social well being of an individual. A person's ability to work depends largely on his health. Good health enhances the ability to work, leading to an increase in the standard of living of the individual. Health is not only the absence of disease but also the ability to realize one's potential. It is a yardstick of one's well being. According to WHO, health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well being and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. WHO QOL project focus on international health. The World Health Organization Quality of Life WHO project was initiated in 1991. The aim was to develop an international cross-culturally comparable quality of life assessment instrument. It assists the individual's perceptions in the context of their culture and value system and their personal goals, standards, and concerns. The WHOQL instruments were developed collaboratively in a number of centers worldwide and have been widely field tested. The WHOQL brief instrument comprises 26 items which measures the following broad domains: physical health, psychological health, social relationship, and environment. The WHOQL brief is a shorter version of the original instrument that may be more convenient for use in large research studies of clinical trials. Health infrastructure in India. Health infrastructure includes hospitals, doctors, nurses, and other paramedical professionals, beds, equipment required in hospitals, and well developed pharmaceutical industry. Only the presence of infrastructure is not not enough to have healthy people, but it should also be accessible to all. the people easily. In India, health infrastructure comprises both the public sector and the private sector. Health infrastructure in public sector, the government has the constitutional obligation to guide and regulate all health related issues such as medical education, adulteration of food, drugs and poisons, medical profession, vital statistics, mental deficiency and illness. Central Council of Health and Family Welfare collects information and renders financial and technical assistance to state governments, union territories, and other bodies for implementation of important health programs in the country. India's public health infrastructure and healthcare is made up of a three-tier system. Primary healthcare. Primary healthcare system in India includes education concerning prevailing health problems and methods of identifying, preventing, and controlling them, promotion of food supply and proper nutrition, and adequate supply of water and basic sanitation, maternal and child health care, immunization against major infectious disease and injuries, promotion of health and provision of essential drugs. Auxiliary nursing midwife ANM is the first person who provides primary health care in primary health centers, PACS, community health centers, CHCS, and sub centers. Secondary health care, when condition of a patient is not managed by PACS, they are referred to secondary or tertiary hospitals, healthcare institutes having better facilities or surgery, X-ray, and ECG. Electrocardiograph are called secondary healthcare institutes. They are mostly located in district headquarters in big towns. Tertiary healthcare. In tertiary sector, there are the hospitals which have advanced level equipment and medicines and undertake all the complicated health problems which could not be managed by primary and secondary hospitals. This sector also includes many premier institutes which not only impact quality medical education and conduct research but also provide specialized healthcare. All India Institute of Medical Sciences AIIMS, Postgraduate Institute PGI, Chandigarh Jawaharlal Institute of Postgraduate Medical Education and Research JIPMER, Pondicherry National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences NIMHS, HNS, Bengaluru, and All India Institute of Hygiene and Public Health Kolkata. Health infrastructure in private sector. In recent times, private health infrastructure has grown largely. Private sector health infrastructure is explained below. About 70% of the hospitals running in India belong to private sector. Nearly 60% dispensaries are run by the same private sector. They provide health care for 80% of outpatients and 46% of inpatients. It has also been contributing significantly in medical education and training, medical technologies and diagnostics, major manufacturers and scale of pharmaceutical hospitals, construction and medical services. There are large number of hospitals run by voluntary agencies and the private sectors equipped with professionals and paramedical professionals trained in medical pharmacy and nursing colleges. It provides quality healthcare services at reasonable cost and has also earned foreign exchange for the country by promoting medical tourism. Indicators of health, a critical appraisal. The following indicators will help the students to access health and health infrastructure in India. The infant mortality rate is quite high in India. In 2013, it was 41. The under 5 mortality rate is also high at 53. Only 67% of the births in India are mentioned by skilled attendants. Only 72% of population is fully immunized. Government spends only 4% of its GDP on health. It is 4.5% of the total government spending. Out of pocket expenditure as a percentage of private expenditure on health is quite high at 86%. India bears a frightening 20% of global burden of disease. GBD. More than half of GBD is accounted for by communicable disease such as diarrhea, malaria, and tuberculosis. Every year, around 5 lakh children die of waterborne disease, malnutrition, and inadequate supply of vaccine lead to the death of 2.2 million children every year. AIDS is also a major threat. Less than 20% of the population utilizes public health facilities. This is because only 38% of PHCs have the required number of doctors and only 30% of PACS have adequate stock of medicines. Problems related to health infrastructure. After independence, there has been a significant improvement in the health status of people in India, but the situation is not much better as per the study of WHO. It has placed India at 112th position among 191 countries of the world. Even Bangladesh is ahead of India. The following problems are related to health infrastructure: urban, rural, and poor rich divide. Differences in medical healthcare between urban, rural, and poor rich can be understood from the points given below. Only one fifth of total hospitals are located in rural areas. Rural India has about half the number of dispensaries. People in rural areas do not have sufficient medical infrastructure. This leads to difference in the health status of people. Out of 6.3 lakh beds in government hospitals, roughly 30% available in rural areas. There are only 0.36 hospitals for every 1 lakh people in rural areas, while urban areas have 3.6 hospitals for the same number of people. The PICS located in rural areas do not offer even X-ray or blood testing facilities, even though 380 recognized medical colleges produce 44,000 medical graduates every year. Still, there are shortage of doctors in rural areas. One fifth of these doctors migrate from one country to another for better job opportunities. The poorest 20% of Indians living in both urban and rural areas spend 12% of their income on healthcare, while the rich spend only 2%. Women's health: more than 50% married women between the age group of 15 and 49 years suffer from anemia caused by iron deficiency. It has contributed to 19% of maternal deaths. Abortions are major cause of maternal morbidity and mortality in India. Inadequate number of medical personnel. Shortage of medical personnel like doctors, nurses, etc. It is a basic problem in the health sector in India. Migration of excellent doctors of India to foreign as they get better opportunities in foreign. Measures to improve health sector. Public health services should be decentralized for long-term benefits. Education and health infrastructure should be improved. The importance of telecom and IT sectors is spending. Health awareness should be recognized. Primary healthcare centers should be improved. The divide between the urban and rural healthcare should be checked because it can destabilize the socio-economic fabric of our country. Important policies and schemes to develop health sector. Improvement in the standard of living and health status of the population has remained one of the important objectives for policymakers in India. To achieve this, following policies and schemes have been announced. Fit India movement. Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced this scheme on 28th August 2019 from Indira Gandhi Stadium, Delhi. There are many diseases which can be prevented by increasing physical activity and making lifestyle changes. This movement aimed to encourage and inculcate the habit of undertaking physical activity and exercising among the citizens of the country. Ayushman Bharat scheme, 1st February 2018, Arun Jaitley. It is central sponsored health insurance scheme of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. It will provide a cover of 5 lakh per family per year, taking care of almost all secondary care and tertiary care procedures. There will be no limitations of on family size and age in the scheme. It was announced in the Union Budget 2018. Mission Indradhanush. Jai Prakash Nadda, 25th December 2014. The Union Ministry of Health and Family Welfare launched Mission Indradhanush on 25th December 2014 to achieve full immunization coverage for all children by 2020. The mission aims to cover all those children who are either unvaccinated or are partially vaccinated against 7 vaccine preventable diseases including diphtheria, whooping cough, tetanus, polio, tuberculosis, measles, and hepatitis B. National Urban Health Mission NUHM. The National Urban Health Mission NUHM is a submission of National Health Mission NUHM would cover all states, capitals, district headquarters, and cities or towns with a population of more than 50,000. It would primarily focus on slum dwellers and other marginalized groups like rickshaw pullers, street vendors, railway and bus station coolies, homeless people, street children, construction site workers. The center state funding pattern will be 75 is to 25 for all the states except northeastern states, including Sikkim and other special category states of Jammu and Kashmir. Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, for whom the state's center state funding pattern will 90 to 10. The program implementation plans are PIPS set by the states are appraised and approved by the ministry. Ayushman Yoga and Naturopathy, Unani Siddha and Homeopathy, Ayush. The Indian system of medicines is also being developed and promoted by involvement, integration of the Ayush system in national healthcare delivery through an allocation of 990 crore plan outlay in 2012 to 13 to integrate Ayush healthcare with mainstream allopathic healthcare service. The states are provided financial support for co-location of Ayush facilitated at PHCS, CHCS and district hospitals and supply of essential drugs to standalone Ayush hospitals or dispensaries. Pradhan Mantri Swasthya Suraksha Yojana (PMSSY). The PMSSY was launched in March 2006 and aimed at correcting regional imbalances in the availability of the affordable or reliable tertiary healthcare services and augmenting facilities for quality medical education in the country. Jayani Suraksha Yojana (JSY) 12 April. The JSY, launched in 2005, aimed to bring down the MMR by promoting institutional deliveries conducted by skilled birth attendants. Under this scheme, pregnant women belonging to below poverty line families and SC/ST families will get an assistance of 500 if delivered at home, 600 for urban and institutional delivery, 700 for delivery in health centers in rural areas, and 1,500 for cesarean delivery. This benefit is available if delivered in recognized private health institutions other than government hospitals also. National Rural Health Mission (NRHM), April 5th. The NRHM was launched in 2005 to improve accessibility to quality healthcare for the rural population, bridge gaps in healthcare facilities, decentralize planning in the health sector, and bring about intersectoral convergence. The architectural correction envisaged under NHRM is organized around five pillars, each of which is made up of a number of overlapping core strategies and are as follows: increasing participation and ownership by the community, improved management capacity, flexible financing, innovations in human resources development for the health sector, setting of standards and norms with monitoring. Accredited social health activist ASHA. One of the key components of the National Rural Health Mission (NHRM) is to provide every village in the country with a trained female community health activist ASHA or accredited social health activist elected from the village itself and accountable to it. The mission began in 2005. The ASHA will be work as an interface between the community and the public health system. ASHA will act as a depot holder for essential provisioning being made available to all habitations like oral rehydration therapy, ORT, iron folic acid tablet, IFA, chloroquine, disposable delivery kits, DDK, oral pills and condoms, etc. National Health Policy 2002. National Health Policy 2002 was proposed to increase primary health expenditure. The policy encourages the government to further decentralize their services. It gives priority to school health education programs. The policy addresses the health issues such as HIV, AIDS, diabetes, cancer, and cardiovascular tissues, and macro and micronutrition deficiency in women and children. Its key points are: decrease in the health expenditure of the households from the current level by 25% by 2025, increase the share of state of health to more than 8% of their budget by 2020, increase health expenditure of government from the existing 1.15% to 2.5% of the GDP by 2025. Increase life expectancy at birth from 67.5% to 70% by 2025. Reduction of total fertility rate (TFR) to 2.1 at national and subnational level by 2025. Reduce infant mortality rate to 28 by 2019. Reduce under 5 mortality to 23 by 2025. Reduce maternal mortality ratio (MMR) from current levels 167 to 100 by 2020. To reduce the prevalence of blindness to 0.25% and by 1000 by 2025. Reduce cardiovascular disease, diabetes, or chronic respiratory disease and cancer by 25% by 2025, increase utilization of public health facilities by 50% from current level by 2025. More than 90% of the newborn are fully immunized by 1 year of age by 2025. 12 5-year plan and health coverage. 12 5-year plans has strategized to establish a system of universal health coverage in the country. The strategy is based on the recommendations of high level expert group HLEG. Following are the important strategies: strengthening of public sector healthcare system and providing access to all. The expenditure on health should be increased to 2.5% of GDP by the end of 12 5-year plan to utilize available resources efficiently and achieve better health outcomes, to increase the cooperation between private and public sectors healthcare provides, to expand medical schools and nursing colleges, and to increase the availability of human resources, to safeguard people against risk and unethical practices in medical practices, public health, food, and drugs by implementing new reforms. The selected health indicators parameters: current level, current crude birth rate CBR per 1000 population 21.8 2011, crude death rate CDR per 1000 population 7.1 2011, total fertility rate TFR per woman 22.5 2010, maternal mortality rate MMR per 1 lakh live births to 212 2007 to 9, or IMR per 1000 live births 44 2011, rural 48, urban 29, child 0 to 4 years mortality rate per 1000 children 13.3 2010, life expectancy at birth 2006 to 10, total হচ্ছে 66.1, or male 64.6, female 67.7. Education sector, it is one of the most important factors of social development. Every country focuses on improving its education sector and literacy rate. Education is a lifelong process involving both formal and informal institutions of learning. School is a step towards higher education, and finally employment. Economics understands this need as a process of transmission communication of group heritage that is common to all societies. School in modern societies are designed to promote uniformity, standardized aspirations, and universalistic values. According to Emily Durkheim, no society can survive without a common base, a certain number of ideas and sentiments which education must inculcate in all children indiscriminately to whatever social category they belong. Education should to prepare the child for a special occupation and enable the child to internalize the core values of society. The following figure illustrate the overall meaning of education. All-round development of the child. Education as the all-round development of the child, જે all-round development of the child হচ্ছে physical development, moral development, language development, intellectual development, emotional development, cultural development, aesthetic development, spiritual development, serial development, religious development. Nature of education. Following are the important characteristics of the nature of education. Education is purposive. There is a definite purpose of all the education activities. Education is planned. Education is systematic and needs planning. Education is lifelong. Education starts from the time of conception and goes on till death. Education is from cradle to grave. Objective of education. There are defined dimensions of education's objective, which are as follows. Specific objective. This objective is also known as uncommon objective. Nature and scope of this objective has fixed duration. It deals with a spatial purpose. Universal objectives. This objective applies equally to all human beings. It helps in development of desirable character in person. Individual objective. In context of this objective, famous educationist Sir P.T. Nunn has said, the good which come in this world is due to individual effort of men and women. It helps in all-round development of an individual. Social objective. According to socialist, society is more important than any individual, hence they stressed on the social objective of education. Role of education in social control. Development of socialization. Education play a critical role in process of socialization. Good society cannot progress without education. Intellectual development. Education helps in a intellectual development of people. Rational education is must for intellectual development. Development of ethical values. Ethical values are decided by type of education received by people, and these in return decide the stability in the society. Diffusion of culture. Education brings defined cultures together and they share their values with each other. Help in social adaptation. Adaptation of any individual is decided by the standard of education one has. Education helps in development of values like tolerance, etc. To make human polite and decent. Human behavior is shaped by the kind of education they receive. Decency and politeness is not possible without good education. Protection of economic life. An educated person can thrive because of his skill. He can establish himself in the adverse condition and can ensure good economic condition. To define right of a person, education level of the society decide their position and rights. Because with education person's wisdom increase. Illiterate people are exploited by everyone. Determine all round development. Multidimensional or all round development can only occur when persons in educated. Education helps in determining direction, aims, duty of person, etc. Government expenditure on education. Government expenditure on education can be expressed in two ways: as a percentage of total government expenditure. The percentage of education expenditure of total government expenditure indicates the importance of education in the scheme of expenses before the government. During 1952 2010, education expenditure as percentage of total government expenditure increased from 7.92% to 11.1% in 2019 to 20. It is raised to 12.8% as a percentage of gross domestic product (GDP). Expenditure on education out of our GDP shows how much we are committed towards the development of education in our country. During 1952 2010, education expenditure as a percentage of GDP increased from 0.64% to 3.25% in 2019 to 20. It has been raised to 4.6% with next target of 6%. Government's initiative to improve education in India. The government has taken the following initiative to improve the level of education in the country. Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan (SSA), Right to Education (RTE), the right of children to free and compulsory education RTE Act 2009, legislating Article 21A of the Constitution of India, became operational in the country on 1st April 2010. This act makes education a matter of right to all children in the age group of 6 to 14 years of age. It implies that every child has a right to elementary education of satisfactory and equitable quality in a formal school which satisfies certain essential norms and standards. Significant reduction in the number of out of school children on account of SSA interventions has been noted. Provision of education cess. The government has levied 2% education cess on all union taxes WEF 2004 to 5. The revenue from this is spent on providing elementary education in the country. Other measures. In addition to this, the government sanctions a large outlay for the promotion of higher education and new loan schemes for students to pressure higher education. Also, the government has established the certain organization which facilitate the institutions which come under the education sector. Important among these are National Council of Educational Research and Training (NCERT), University Grants Commission (UGC), All India Council of Technical Education (AICTE), etc. Educational achievements in India. Generally, educational achievements in a country are indicated in terms of adult literacy level, primary education completion rate, and youth literacy rate. In 2010 to 11, literacy rate was 74.04% for India, but Kerala has achieved a literacy rate of 93.91%. Schemes related to education. Eklavya Model Residential School. It is a scheme for model residential school for Indian tribal scheduled tribes across India. As per the budget 2018 to 19, every block with more than 50% ST population and at least 20,000 tribal persons will have an Eklavya Model Residential School by the year 2022. It was introduced in the year 2009, 1997 and to 98. Its aim is to ensure that tribal students get access to quality education in the remote tribal areas. SAT program. SAT stands for Sustainable Action for Transforming Human Capital Scheme. It was launched on 10th June 2017 by Niti Aayog. The vision of the program is to initiate transformation in the education and health sectors. SAT aims to identify and build three future role models states for health and education. Vidyanjali Yojana. It is the innovative scheme which focuses towards the improvement of literacy by offering volunteer teachers in government schools. This program was launched in June 2016. The main objective of introducing this scheme is to get volunteer teachers for government schools across the nations. By doing so, it will help to boost students to perform better in their education. Nai Manjil. It is a scheme launched on 8 August 2015. It was launched at Patna, Bihar. This is the first World Bank supported program for minority welfare being managed by the Ministry of Minority Affairs. The objective of the scheme is to provide education and market-driven skill training to youth between the age of 17 to 35 years from minority community families who are below poverty line BPL. Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Missions on Teachers and Teaching. It is a scheme launched by the Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India on 25th December 2014. The aim of the scheme is to improve the quality of school and higher education by addressing comprehensively all issues related to teaching method, teachers' preparation, professional development, etc. Sakshar Bharat Mission. Sakshar Bharat Mission was launched on 8th September 2009. It aims to further promote adult education, especially of women. The objective of achieving 85% literacy level at national level by focusing on adult women literacy, seeking to reduce the gap between male and female literacy to not more than 10%. Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan RMASA was launched in March 2009 with the objective to enhance access to secondary education and to improve its quality. Objective includes improving quality of education imported at a secondary level by making all secondary schools conform to prescribed norms, removing gender, socio-economic and disability barriers, providing universal access to secondary level education by 2017 and achieving universal retention by 2020. Important physical facilities provided under the scheme are additional classrooms, laboratories, libraries, toilet blocks, art and crafts rooms, and residential hostels for teachers. Midday meal (MDM). This scheme was launched in 1995. Under this scheme, cooked midday meal are provided to all children attending classes 1 to 8 in government local body, government aided and National Child Labor Project (NCLP) schools education guarantee scheme EGS or alternate and innovative education centers including madrasas, maktabs supported under the ACSA across the country are also covered under this program. At present, the cooked midday meals provides an energy content of 450 calorie and protein content of 12 gram at primary stage and an energy content of 700 calories and uh, protein content of 20 gram at upper primary stage. Education Guarantee Scheme and Alternative and Innovative Education. Education Guarantee Scheme EGS and Alternative and Innovative Education AIE were established under Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan SSA. These are the important elements of SSA. The main purpose of starting this scheme is to provide free education up to 12th for especially every child who is still exempted from school education. EGS totally focuses on those areas where no schools are available in radius on 1 kilometer and at least 15 to 25 children, boys or girls or 6 to 14 years of age group are available who are not going to any school or are not capable to receive education due to some reason. AIE has been introduced specially for those categories of children who are underprivileged in the society like the child labor, working children, migrating children and children in difficult circumstances with the age of 9 years plus. Gender and development. Gender relations has been one of the crucial factors for development of society as a whole. Gender quality has been important for overall development seen in various policies and programs. Gender and development approach evolved in 1980s with impact of various feminist theories for development work of weaker sections of women. Gender and development approach determines the best possible way to align policies, projects, and programs of development with gender relationships. Since women and men are biologically defined and their position in society is not same due to socio-economic and traditional constructs, hence development of society can be done only by tackling the defined needs of both gender. Gender specification policies in development program can bridge the gap between gender and can lead to overall development of society with technological and industrial society evolvement women is somewhere lagging behind to adapt the new situation as modernized technological agriculture has left the women participation for behind. As well as with industrial changes, women are somehow incompatible to understand the modernized techniques. This lead to degraded status of women, where women only can do household work and does not contribute in economic system. Development policies should focus on such aspects, and efforts to be taken to make women capable of dealing with new changes. Until and unless gender equality will not be there, overall development of society cannot take place. Constitutional validity on gender relations in high India. 50% representation of enshrined in the Panchayati Raj Act. Sustainable development policies like Savla, Ladli, Janani, Suraksha Yojana, etc. made to discarding gender disparity and empowerment of women. Special privilege for women in the competitive examinations such as job reservation, fee-less application, and recruiting more or less at home cadre. Gender and development perspective. Welfarist approach means an approach based on the premise that actions, policies and rules should be evaluated on the basis of the consequences. In case of gender and its development, welfarist approach is an attempt to provide minimum utilities, health, happiness and well-being. Government policies under welfarist approach are focused or for betterment of social and economic conditions of women by providing them subsidies and other aids. Developmental approach or hard state approach, where state has more independent or autonomous political power and various regulatory bodies work for betterment and development of gender specific. It has a macro planning to deal with the situation. Empowerment refers to develop and increase the political, social, educational or economic strength of individuals as well as communities and hence society as a whole. Women empowerment is initial to sustainable development and realization of human rights for all. Gender discrimination in defined social institutions. The family. India is basically a patriarchal society. In most households, the father is considered as head of the family and hence the center of authority. Women generally perform kitchen work, child care, and other domestic chores. This gender division of labor gives rise to an unequal division of power between males and females within the household. Authority and property are usually transferred in the male line. Although women play a primary role in the survival and maintenance of the household, their position and in household decision making at as almost secondary. In India, nearly 30% of the household survive on the earning of women. In such female-headed household, also it is not uncommon to see her being subject to physical and mental violence. Religion has a long past, and religious texts have been mostly composed by men, so these have often been used to discriminate against women. Many a time, religion practices double standards. Breath. It says that women should be treated with the highest respect, and in another, it upholds such practices as humiliation of widows, child marriage, or sati. Adverse female male ratio. The pattern of female male ratio of children produces a much safer regional classification than does the female male ratio of mortality of children, even though the two are also very strongly correlated. The female male ratio in child mortality varies between 0.91 in West Bengal and 0.93 in Kerala. On one side, the southern and eastern group to 1.30 in Punjab, Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh, with high ratio also in Gujarat, Bihar, and Rajasthan. The states with anti-female bias includes rich ones, Punjab and Haryana, as well as poor states Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh, and fast growing states Gujarat and Maharashtra. Women empowerment in India. Empowerment is a multidimensional concept and relates to the social attainment, economical participation, and political participation of people. India has been working towards empowering her women ever since independence, and especially since the 1990s. The 73rd Amendment to our Constitution in 1993 was a major milestone in this direction. The amendment, besides making provision for reservation of seats for scheduled caste and tribes proportionate to their population in the Panchayati Panchayat area, also ensured reservation of not less than one third of these reserved seats for the women. The impact of reserving one third of states seats for women. The Panchayati Raj institutions has been fruitful and has empowered women both politically and socially. At present, there are approximately 260,000 Panchayat representatives in India, out of which around 75,000 are women, making it is the largest number of elected women in the world. The Women Reservation Bill 2010, approved by the upper house of parliament, another major step, basically aimed at giving more political space to the women and ensure their active participation in the development process. Special schemes for women development. National Nutrition Mission Poshan Abhiyan. National Nutrition Mission was launched as an as expansion of Beti Bachao Beti expansion of Beti Bachao Beti Padhao program by Prime Minister Narendra Modi at Jhunjhun in Rajasthan on the occasion of the International Women's Day on 8 March 2018. The main objective of this scheme are to attain proper nutritional status among children from 0 to 6 years, adolescent girls, pregnant women, and lactating mothers in a timely manner, reduce stunning undernutrition and anemia among young children, women, and adolescent girls. PMMSK scheme, Pradhan Mahila Shakti Kendra scheme PMMSK was approved by Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs in November 2017 for a period 2017 to 18 to 2019 to 20. PMMSK scheme is envisioned as one-stop convergence support service for empowering rural women with opportunities for skill development, digital literacy, health and nutrition and empowerment. This scheme will perform under the patronage of Ministry of Women and Child Development. Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has launched Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana on 1st May 2016 Labor Day at Balia, UP. The objective of the scheme is to provide cooking gas connections to 5 million beneficiaries below the poverty line in the next 3 years till the year 2019. Main objective of this policy are free LPG gas connections in the name of the female member. It will be a cylinder and regulator. This scheme will include the rural and urban BPL family. 1,600 will be sent to Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana bank as subsidies. Beti Bachao Beti Padhao Yojana. Government has introduced a new scheme called Beti Bachao Beti Padhao, which will help in generating awareness and improving the efficiency of delivery of welfare services meant of women with an initial corpus of 100 crore. This scheme was launched on 22nd January 2015 by the respected Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. Sukarna Samriddhi Yojana. Sukarna Samriddhi Yojana was launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi under Beti Bachao Beti Padhao campaign in January 2015. Small deposit scheme for girl child. Sukarna Samriddhi Yojana was launched under the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao BBBP campaign with an aim to provide social security for girls. The scheme will enable parents to open bank account of girls who are under 10 years of age. Sukarna Samriddhi account can be opened in any post office or authorized branches of commercial banks. The account will fetch an interest rate of 9.1% and no income tax will be levied. The account can be opened at any time from the birth of girl child till she attains the age of 10 years with a minimum deposit of 1000. Minimum of 1.5 lakh can be deposited during the financial year. The account will remain operative for 21 years from the date of opening of the account when the girl is 21 years old. She will get the entire amount to meet the requirement of higher education expenses. Partial withdrawal of 50% of the balance amount will be allowed after the girl child has attained 18 years of age. Rajiv Gandhi Scheme for Empowerment of Adolescent Girls Savla. The Rajiv Gandhi Scheme for Empowerment of Adolescent Girls Savla is a central sponsored program of Government of India initiated on 1st April 2011 under Ministry of Child and Development, which aims at direct targeted interventions The scheme is aimed at empowerment of adolescent girls aged 10 to 19 years constitute almost 47% of total population of adolescents in India. Mahila Kisan Sashaktikan Pariyojana, a new scheme Mahila Kisan Sashaktikan Pariyojana AMKSP has been initiated in 2010 to 11 as a sub-component of National Rural Livelihood Mission (NRLM) to meet the specific needs of women farmers, predominantly small and marginal farmers. Nowadays, this scheme is a sub-component of the Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana (NRLM). DNRLM. AMKSP recognizes the identity of Mahila as Kisan. Indira Gandhi Matritva Sahyog Yojana. Under Indira Gandhi Matritva Sahyog Yojana is a central sponsored scheme for pregnant and lactating women to improve their health and nutrition status by providing cash incentives to pregnant and nursing mothers. It is being implemented using the platform of ICDS. The scheme was introduced in October 2010 on a pilot basis is now operational in 53 selected districts. The scheme attempts to partly compensate for weight loss to pregnant and lactating women, both prior to and after delivery of a child. The scheme envisages providing cash directly to the beneficiary through their bank account, post office accounts in response to individual fulfilling specific condition. The scheme covers all pregnant and lactating women 19 years of age and above for first two live births. Except all government PSUS, central and state. The scheme is 100% central sponsored. Janani Suraksha Yojana. Janani Suraksha Yojana JSY, a safe motherhood interventions under the National Rural Health Mission NRHM, was launched on 12th April 2005 to promote institutional delivery among the poor pregnant women. The Yojana is being implemented in all states and union territories. It is a 100% centrally sponsored scheme. The scheme focuses on the poor pregnant women with dispensation for states having low institutional delivery rates, namely the states of Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Bihar, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Assam, Rajasthan, Odisha, and Jammu and Kashmir. While these states have been named as high performing states, besides maternal care, the scheme provide cash assistance to all eligible mothers for delivery care. The scheme has identified ASA, accredited social health activists, as an effective link between the health facility and the community. Rashtriya Mahila Kosh, the National Credit Fund for Women. Rashtriya Mahila Kosh was set up in 1993 to meet the credit needs of poor women in the informal sector for income generation and household activities. The RAMK are set up under the Societies Act 1860 is managed by a governing board comprising members. The Minister of State for Women and Child Development is the chairperson of the course. Strategy of Women's Development. The strategy of women's development comprises social and economic empowerment of women through attitudinal change towards girl child and education training, employment support service, and emphasis on women rights and law. The strategy of women development aims at the following: strengthening institutional framework offering support service for women. A policy level commission research, evaluation, studies, review schemes, programs, and legislation, do gender audit and outcome assessment to build the evidence for policy and program reform and scale up implementation of the initiatives. Enhance economic empowerment of girls and women through skill development, microcredit, vocational training, and entrepreneurship and SHG development. Evolve with the support of community representatives and groups appropriate. Within the framework of a democratic polity, our laws, development policies, plans, and programs have aimed at women's advancement in defined spheres. From the fifth five-year plan, 1974-78 onwards, has been a marked shift in the approach to women's issue from welfare to development. In recent years, the empowerment of women has been recognized as the central issue in determining the status of women. The National Commission for Women was set up by an act of parliament in 1990 to safeguard the rights and legal entitlement of women. The 73rd and 74th amendments 1993 to the Constitution of India have provided for reservation of seats in the local bodies of panchayats and municipalities for women, laying a strong foundation for their participation in decision making at the local levels. Important legislation for women. Hindu Marriage Act 1955, the Special Marriage Act 1954, or Hindu Succession Act 1956, the Child Marriage Restraint Amendment Act 1976, the Maternity Benefits Act